That's fine, Your Honor.
You're in.
Oh, Your Honor, while the jury's coming in, I need to run downstairs quick.
Okay. You're in.
1 second.
All right. Everybody may be seated. Do you know who your next witness? Can you just go ahead and call your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. ADA Jessica Skemp will be doing the direct examination, but state calls this next witness Ruth Hank.
Okay. Why don't we get her sworn in at least? We're just waiting for the Ms. Kemp. She'll be right up in a second. Just have a seat.
Your Honor, Ms. Hank asked if she could have a bottle of water.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them up there.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm going to guess you've been duly sworn.
Yes, she has been sworn.
Thank you. Could you state your full name, please?
My name is Ruth Hank.
And how are you employed?
I am employed at the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I am currently the Chemistry Section Supervisor and Trace Evidence Technical Leader.
How long have you been employed at the State Crime Laboratory?
Approximately 32 years.
And can you describe the work that you do in the areas that you're assigned?
As Chemistry Supervisor, I oversee the Trace Evidence Unit as well as the Toxicology and Controlled Substances Unit. As the Trace Evidence Technical Leader, I am involved in some casework. I train employees. I oversee the quality system for the Trace Unit.
And is that generally what you were doing in 2019?
Yes.
Ms. Hank, I'm handing you Exhibit 72, or State's Exhibit 72. Can you describe what that item is?
State's Exhibit number 72 is a statement of my qualifications that lists my employment history as well as training as well as other experience.
Okay. Can you please describe the educational background that you've had to work at the crime laboratory?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. In addition, I have attended numerous external trainings, including workshops, symposia, professional meetings, and paper presentations.
Have you received, you mentioned other trainings, can you detail any trainings that you received specifically for trace evidence examiner, or to examine trace trace items?
I have attended numerous workshops as far as the types of testing that we do in the trace unit, which includes fibers, paints, glass, fire debris for ignitable liquids, chemical unknowns, low explosives. So I have had numerous workshops on those topics. Specifically, as far as fiber evidence is concerned, I have had training in microscopy. I've had training in fiber examination and comparison, as well as other related workshops and instrumentation and paper presentations.
And Mr. Nallid had discussed this, but your laboratory is accredited.
Yes, it is.
And it was accredited in 2019?
I believe that was the year it was accredited, yes.
He also described that as part of accreditation, there's a proficiency testing that is done. Are you required to do any proficiency testing?
Yes, I am.
Can you describe what that process is, please?
Proficiency testing is required by all analysts that work criminal cases, and we have to take basically a test that's provided by an external provider, and that test is designed to mimic a real casework type of testing. So we have to analyze it using our procedures and protocols, as well as write a report like we would in an actual criminal case.
And then once you do that, is that evaluated?
Yes. The results are not known to this test while we are taking it. We submit it to the proficiency test provider, at which point the results are evaluated and we're notified whether we passed or not.
Have you previously testified as an expert witness?
Yes, I have.
Now, can you describe the process of performing trace analysis, in particular with fiber comparison?
As far as how I analyze fiber cases, generally they consist of a comparison between a questioned fiber and a known fiber. I initially start by taking custody of those items and just taking notes on them as far as their condition. As part of a fiber examination, I have certain quality protocols that I follow, including making sure my work area is clean, in addition to inspecting any tools I use or supplies. I then will open one item at a time. I usually try to open the question items prior to the known, so there's no possibility of contamination. And then I would eventually mount those fibers and look at them microscopically.
And I'm sorry, I think I forgot this, but is that Exhibit 72, your statement of qualifications?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Your Honor, I would move to admit Exhibit 72.
No objection.
You received?
Were you asked to perform any comparisons in a case involving the decedent Mark Phillips?
Yes.
And did you prepare a report of the work that you did?
Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it.
Ms. Hank, I have handed to you exhibit number 73 for identification. Can you tell me what that item is, please?
State's exhibit number 73 is a copy of my laboratory report of confidential findings, and it bears the laboratory case number of M as in Mary 19-881.
Why do you assign a case number?
When evidence is brought into the laboratory, it is assigned a laboratory case number where it is put into our laboratory information management system, or LIMS, and that is used to track the evidence as it comes into the lab. All of our reports are put in there, as well as chain of custody.
Now, these items were transmitted to the laboratory by the Crosse County Sheriff's Department?
I would need to refer to the receipt for that.
Okay. A receipt would refresh your recollection on that?
Yes, it would.
Showing you an item that purports to be a receipt of physical evidence. Will that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
And does it refresh your recollection as to where you received the items in this particular case from?
Well, I personally received them from an evidence storage area, but as far as how they came into the laboratory, they were submitted by La Crosse County Sheriff's Office via UPS.
Now, when you did perform comparisons in this case, can you describe what items you did compare in this case and how you did that?
I received several items in this case. The ones that were actually compared where I looked at the known fibers would have been a pair of blue jeans and a black sweatshirt. I also received other items that did not involve fiber comparison or analysis. I also received several items where fibers were collected on sticky notes, and those correspond to items K, L, M, N, and P.
All right. And what were your, is there any concern about the use of the sticky notes for preservation of small items like fibers or hairs?
Sticky notes are one of the ways we instruct law enforcement to collect fibers, and the reason for that is because the adhesive on there is thin enough where it will retain them so they are not lost, but it is not so sticky that it embeds them. Say, for instance, in a fingerprint lift card, it's very sticky, and at that point it coats the fiber. The sticky notes are actually quite useful for collecting them.
And do you recall the condition that these items, when you retrieved them, how were they packaged?
Well, they were all packaged in various forms of packaging in a sealed condition with these sticky notes present.
I think you answered this before, but did you pull all of these items out at one time to perform your analysis, or did you do them individually?
No, initially when items are brought into the lab and I'm starting my analysis, I will open items one at a time on separate pieces of clean paper. I clean my work area. Like I said, I inspect all of my tools. They're opened one at a time. Then I place it back in the original container, and then perhaps I'm mounting a fiber or just doing general description, and then I open the next item. So they are done sequentially, not concurrently.
So in this particular case, what items did you compare and what findings did you make?
I looked at several fibers. Item K consisted of 2 sticky notes denoted as K1 and K2. I found 3 white polyester fibers on item K1, which are denoted K1A through K1C. I also looked at a blue fiber, which referred to as, let me just refer to my report, item M1. And I compared that to the blue jeans, which was item H.
In the blue jeans, were listed as the jeans collected from the decedent, Mark Phillips?
Yes, and in addition, I also compared those white polyester fibers that I just referred to the stitching on the blue jeans, which was also white.
Now, can you tell us, when you're making these comparisons, what are you looking for?
Basically, when I do a fiber comparison, the first part I do is I actually determine what type of fiber I'm looking at. So for instance, whether it's cotton or polyester or other types. And when I do an actual comparison, I use what's called a comparison polarized light microscope, or comparison PLM. And that allows me to observe both fibers under the microscope, both question and known, in real time. And I'm able to look at both the color as well as other morphological properties and optical properties.
And did you say morphology? What is that?
Morphology is some of the more general characteristics of how I would describe a fiber, for instance. Whether it is like the fiber diameter, fiber cross-sectional shape, color, I would consider that morphology.
Now, the white polyester, the unknown white polyester fibers that you compared to stitching from the jeans, did you make any determinations?
Yes, they were inconsistent with the stitching on the jeans fibers.
The fiber that was item M, or M1, excuse me, in comparing that to fibers taken from the jeans from Mr. Phillips' jeans, what findings did you make?
The blue cotton fiber that I examined, the question fiber, was consistent with the blue jean fiber, item H.
And what does that mean that they were consistent?
That means when I examined them under the comparison PLM microscope, I did not see any differences.
Now, is there a reason why you said it did not, that the question fiber did not come from that item, those jeans?
I cannot say with fiber evidence that a question fiber conclusively comes from a source garment, and that is because of mass manufacture of garments. Manufacturers produce many pairs of jeans, so in theory, anything that's produced in a batch or with a particular dye lot or whatever could have those same characteristics.
Did you make any other conclusions regarding items that you looked at?
Those were the ones that I actually compared, and those were the primary findings, yes.
Okay. Now, denim or jeans can come, there are darker shades of denim jeans and lighter shades of denim jeans. So if the color would have differed in any way from the known sample, what would your finding have been?
If the color was different between the question and the known, I would have determined that it was inconsistent. The question fiber was inconsistent with the known and could not have come from that source.
And what do you do once you make your results?
After I'm done with my examinations, I write a report.
And once you write your report, are there any other steps to make sure that it is accurate?
Yes, as part of our requirements, we have technical review of all of our work. So in other words, when I'm done, I write my report. It is peer-reviewed by another qualified analyst, so they look over our notes, our data, and our report to make sure that they're technically accurate and then that they agree with the findings.
And was that, your report in this case was peer-reviewed?
Yes, it was.
And they did also agree with your findings?
Yes, based on my notes, my data, and my report, yes.
Now, there is a when your agency is done with a evidence, what do you do with it?
The evidence that we examine is then returned to the submitter.
And is it described in a way that you can tell what the items are?
I don't understand your question.
Okay. Have you seen an evidence release form previously?
Yes, an evidence release form is prepared once the evidence is returned, yes.
Okay. And it describes what the evidence is that's being returned to the agency. Is that accurate?
Yes, the evidence release form is basically a return receipt, and it describes what we are returning to the submitter or the submitting agency.
And does that I think it'll just be easier if I show you this. Showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 75. For identification, can you tell me what that item is, please?
Exhibit number 75 is an evidence release return form for laboratory case M19-881.
Now, you indicated that the fiber that you had indicated was consistent with Mr. Phillips' genes came from item M1, which was derived from item M. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And are you able to tell from this document or other agency records where that fiber came from?
According to our receipt, which is prepared when the evidence is submitted, it was apparently recovered from a weight on rear end of drive shaft.
Thank you. I have no further questions. I would move for admission of exhibits 74, I'm sorry. '73, '74, and '75.
Any objection?
No,
They're received. Crosse?
thank you. Sure. Morning, Ms. Hank.
Good morning.
All right, I'm going to be relatively brief, but just to touch on the topic of consistency versus match. So when you say that something is consistent, it means that the two question items could be from the same source of fabric or material. Is that correct?
That the questioned and known could be a common source, yes.
What you're not doing is saying that they're coming from an identical source. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's no way I could discriminate between the two microscopically.
And cotton is a fairly common fiber, right?
That is correct.
And in this case, can I correctly summarize your testimony as that item M is consistent with item H? Is that correct?
M1, the questioned fiber, was consistent with the known fibers from item H, yes.
And you didn't make any other findings that any other items were consistent with one another. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You had other items of Mr. Phillips's clothing provided to you as well?
Yes, I did.
You had a sweatshirt?
I did.
The pair of jeans that was designated as item H?
Correct.
A pair of shoes?
Yes.
A belt?
Yes.
Socks?
Correct.
And in this case, you agreed that M1 could have originated from item H?
Could have, yes.
It could have originated from any other sample of cotton consistent with the characteristics of item M1?
It could have originated from another source with blue cotton fibers that were similar to it.
And Ms. Hank, you're not making any conclusions on how item M1 got onto the drive shaft of the vehicle in question, correct?
Correct. I can only examine what is submitted to me at the laboratory.
You're not making any conclusions as to how that was attached to the drive shaft of the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
You're not making any conclusions as to when that was attached to the vehicle, correct?
That's correct.
And you're not making any conclusions on whether M1 was attached to the vehicle as a result of a collision with Mark Phillips?
Correct.
Nothing further.
And redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. May step down.
Thank you.
At this time, I would ask that Ms. Hank and Mr. Nolly be released from their subpoenas.
No objection.
Well, they'll be released from their subpoenas.
No.
Call your next witness.
Call investigator Fritz Leinfelder. Your Honor, I'm handing what I expect will eventually be a transcript just to confirm.
Okay.
Did you already state your name for the record?
I am not. It's Fritz Leinfelder.
What is your occupation?
I am an investigator for the Crosse County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been doing that for?
I just celebrated my 31st year in law enforcement, and I've been an investigator for over 22 years.
So did you start off as an investigator, or did I?
I didn't start off as an investigator. I started off working in the jail, got promoted out as a patrol officer, then from patrol officer into investigations in 2001.
How does one become an investigator?
Well, it's kind of, with our department, it's an interview process. You show basically your proficiency in other aspects of what you can provide to the department, and I was promoted through that. Once promoted, they send you off to numerous different trainings. For the last 22 years, I've been I've countless number of different trainings in different facets of investigation, to include evidence technicians, interview skills, all kinds of different trainings that we'll attend throughout our career.
So were you employed as an investigator on the morning of February 23rd, 2019?
Yes, I was.
I guess, were you asked, so you were on duty at that time or no?
I was not on duty as an investigator. For the sheriff's office, we are always on call. So at any moment, the work phone can ring, and we can be assigned to go assist or at a different scene, or take over a scene.
So you're on call. Did you respond to a call on that morning, or did you get a call that morning?
Yes, I got a call that morning.
What was the situation, or as you understood it, or what was the call?
The call came across as a suspicious death, a male party, deceased in the driveway, unknown circumstances.
We'll talk more, and I'll ask more about this later, but at some point, did you personally interview someone known as Lori Phillips?
Yes, I did.
How did you identify her?
Um,
How did you know that this person I just been mentioned is named Lori Phillips?
When I got to the scene, I was told that this was Lori Phillips, the wife of Mark Phillips, by, I believe, Sergeant Valencia.
Would you recognize that person if you saw her?
Yes, I would.
Is she in the courtroom today?
She is.
Can you point her out for us?
She's sitting next to Attorney Chris Zacher in the middle of defense table.
Ask the record to reflect identification of the defendant.
Record reflect identification.
So going back to the call that you had mentioned, did you respond to that call or go to a scene of some kind?
Yes, I drove to the scene immediately. After receiving the call, got dressed, went to the scene.
What was your purpose for being on the scene?
Initial purpose is to give assistance to the other officers that were there at the time, to help kind of look at the scene to help figure out what we possibly might have at that point.
Do you recall about what time you got there?
It was around 7 a.m. I arrived at the scene, approximately.
And the scene I'm referring to, is that the Phillips residence?
Yes, at W5414, County Road W.
Is that the same location we've talked about up until this point?
That's the exact location, yes.
And did you recall about what time you got there?
I listed around 7 a.m.
If other people were on scene, who was all on scene when you arrived?
I believe Sergeant Valencia was there. Deputy Stotinger was already on scene. There was other first responders. I believe Tri-State may have been on the scene also at the time I arrived.
You talked about your purpose. What were your duties at that location at that time?
My initial basically assignment or duty was to speak with Lori Phillips and try to figure out what had occurred the night prior. From the information I was told from the deputies on scene, that Ms. Phillips had already relayed information to them.
Were you the first investigator on scene?
I was the first investigator on the scene.
This has been talked about or mentioned previously, but so I'll just ask, is there a difference between being, I guess, the first investigator and the lead investigator on a scene?
Typically with the sheriff's office, it's more unusual to name a lead investigator. Our investigators work together in multiple different facets of that. We have a chain of command that we follow. So, I mean, the first investigator, it just happens that I probably lived the closest to the residents that I arrived on scene as compared to a lead investigator. Again, it's kind of a rarity that the sheriff's office would name a quote-unquote lead investigator.
So does a lead investigator, does that have any special meaning for this particular situation?
Not particularly.
You had mentioned the command structure. Is there some, or I guess in your office, the Crosse County Sheriff's, what is the command structure? Who decides who does what on any given situation?
At the time of this call, we had a Captain John Zimmerman was the captain of the investigative bureau, and he was the one that was in control and in command of the other investigators in the bureau.
So from your office, I guess different officers, different people have different duties, tasks, and assignments. Is that accurate?
That would be accurate, yes.
For this particular scene that we're talking about, can you kind of identify who from your office did what? Who did what on this particular scene? Can you identify that?
Yes, generally. So Sergeant Valencia was the first officer on the scene, and his job at that role at this point was to first life-saving measures if possible, and then scene security, making sure that nobody's coming into the scene that could disrupt anything. He also can be taking statements from individuals that were there that may have some information that will pertain to what has occurred. Deputy Stotinger arrived. Deputy Stotinger's initial assignment was to basically maintain traffic safety, traffic security with the other responding units, first responders, and that kind of thing. He eventually did get a different role where he was assisting with Ms. Phillips, trying to get her away from the scene, talk to her, see if there's any assistance that he could provide her at that time. I then arrived. I kind of talked about what my duties for the day were. We'll go into more, I believe. Deputy Pete Sloan was eventually called, which he assisted with some scene processing things and photos, and Captain Zimmerman also arrived on scene at a time that he was basically took over the role as the supervisor of the scene at that point.
When you say Deputy Stotinger assisting with traffic, I just want to clarify, are you talking about like actual traffic, or are you talking about foot traffic, or?
Actual traffic, that intersection there there are some hidden areas of that intersection that could be dangerous for going out on there, especially when you have numerous vehicles that are parked there. So the M and W intersection can be tough to see coming from the east on WM going westbound, kind of a dip. So basically, the safety of all the individuals coming and going from their vehicles or things like that that may have been out on the roadway or anything like that.
Okay. During the time you were at the residence, I'm going to call this and correct me or clarify, but I guess were there non-professional people there? And by that, I'm referring to not first responders or EMT or anyone we've heard about or anyone with your office.
Yes, I believe there was initially, I don't know if it was initially, but eventually one of Lori's friends arrived that she had called to kind of help her through the process of what was going on, a little bit, some added support. I had been made aware, and I asked Ms. Phillips if she needed any assistance in contacting other family members, that she need clergy, anything along those lines. I was made aware that some of her children were going to be arriving on the scene in a relatively short period of time.
Do you know, I guess, what the other people you're talking about, I mean, did they arrive while you were still there?
Her sons arrived when we were still there, when I was still there with Miss Phillips. Her friend was there also.
Okay. So after you were there?
Yes.
Or got there?
Yes.
Do you have I guess, are you able to say about what time that is, or?
I could not estimate the time on that I spent at the scene before I left with Miss Phillips.
In your years of service, I mean, have you ever responded to situations involving a deceased person?
Yes, I have. Numerous.
Numerous? I'm asking, I didn't hear you.
Yes, numerous scenes which I've dealt with deceased parties.
So I'm not asking about this particular scene, but generally, is it expected or unexpected in this type of a situation that you had codified, people not directly involved with the investigation, non-professional people might show up?
Yes, that's commonplace, and it's actually something I believe that, for the most part, law enforcement assists people that are, if we have somebody that dies of a heart attack, law enforcement's one of their first responsibility is asking the other family members if they need any assistance in calling any other family members or making contact with anybody that they have. So that's one of our roles in that, is to assist those people in that, in taking one less thing off of their plate that they have to try to concentrate on. We'll assist people with that.
But you, your office, the other people you've talked about and what they do, I guess there's still a duty to preserve the scene. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay. So are there, given that the commonality or what you had just testified about, are there steps or policies or procedures in place to preserve a scene, any scene, this kind of scene?
Yes. Once in a scene similar to this or other scenes where we just have either a sudden death or suspicious death, our first response is going to be any life-saving measures, which would include first responders or paramedics coming into the scene to assist. Once that's established, basically that scene is then going to be closed off, and people are not going to be allowed to travel within the area of that. Sometimes that's actual barricade. Sometimes that's with officers saying, we're staying out of this area.
So now I am talking about this particular scene. Were those steps you just described, were they done there? How were they done there? What can you tell us about that?
Yes, they were done there. They were done by Sergeant Valencia with basically being in that area for the most period of time when those, after the life-saving measures were taken care of or ruled not going to be effective. I believe Sergeant Valencia for a while, and maybe Deputy Stotinger was there, and that was talking to the personnel that were on scene, first responders, that they're going to kind of leave in the same direction they came. We don't want any other footprints and things like that. Other people that are arrived on scene, in this instance, when Ms. Phillips' sons arrived, they were directed to go towards the M driveway and not go onto the W driveway where Mark Phillips was located.
So after you got to this scene, I guess, what's the first thing you do?
First thing I did, I met with Sergeant Valencia and got some more information about what he had been able to collect from Ms. Phillips or anything else about the scene. I did observe Mr. Phillips in the driveway at the time, got, I would say, relatively close. And then I went on to meet with Ms. Phillips up in the main house.
When you observed Mr. Phillips, is that before, after, or during, I guess, tri-state ambulance or anybody else was moving or interacting with the location of the body?
Before, during, and after. So I observed him before he was moved at all. I observed a bit of the process in which he was being moved, and after he was moved.
When you say close to Mr. Phillips, I mean, I guess close enough to, I'm going to refer to this as get a good look.
Yes.
But other than that, did you do anything with him, or I guess did you do anything with, I mean, you didn't personally have to interact with his body or anything?
No, I did not.
That's... What information did you have, or is there any additional information other than what you've talked about available at this point from the situation you were in that you've described?
Available information regarding the occurrences of the night before was I given, or the state of Mr. Phillips?
Did you attempt to interview Ms. Phillips at the location meaning the residence?
Yes, I did. In the main house, I was attempting to talk to her.
Okay, you said attempt. Were you able to do so?
I was able to talk to her. There was numerous interruptions. There was, there were still first responder personnel there. Other officers, the other officers were there, and I knew it was. I believe she was on her phone getting text messages and making phone calls, trying to contact other people at the time. So it was a difficult time to try to just sit down with Ms. Phillips to figure out the events of the night before.
So were there, I guess, distractions preventing you from talking to her in more detail? I wouldn't
preventing them. I wouldn't say preventing them, but making it difficult to gather information from Ms. Phillips was more along those lines.
So I guess if it was difficult to interview her at the main house, what did you do next?
In talking with Ms. Phillips, I asked her if it would be possible for her to come to a location away from the residence where we could sit down and have an uninterrupted conversation, so we weren't having the distractions, so I could get a better picture from her of what occurred the previous night. Because as it was happening at the house, it was kind of ask a question and get a little answer, but it was kind of bits and pieces because of the interruption. So I asked her if it was possible, which she said yes. And her friend Kimmy, I can't remember Kimmy's last name off the top of my head right now, drove her to the Holmen Police Department, which was basically the closest police department or place where we could sit down and conduct an interview in an uninterrupted manner. So I drove my vehicle, Lori drove with her friend to the Holmen Police Department.
So you would offer to go to the police department. I mean, did you tell her it was the Holmen Police Department, or did you say somewhere different?
I believe I told her it was the Holmen Police Department, so they knew where we were going to be going.
Did you say that she drove with a friend?
Yes,
And that was separate from yourself, how you got there, or no?
correct, yeah. Like I said, I drove my vehicle. Miss Phillips drove in another vehicle.
Oh, so somebody, I mean, you either let Miss Phillips or the friend know where you were going.
Correct.
Is there any special reason why you suggested the Holmen PD?
I believe I stated that because it was the closest area that we could get privacy to sit down and be able to talk.
Did you know this Kimmy? Did you know this person?
No, I did not.
And did you talk to or really interview that person?
At the time, that morning, she was in some of the conversations that we had at the residence, and then when she drove Miss Phillips to the Holmen Police Department, she stayed out in a waiting room lobby area of the Holmen Police Department.
So this, I guess, Kimmy, she's not involved with your office or the investigation. That's what I'm asking.
Correct.
Do you recall what time you got to the Holmen Police Department?
Approximately 9:30
AM or PM?
a.m.
So was this the same day or a different day?
the same day, that morning.
So you had went pretty much right there.
Yes.
And that's about 2.5 hours after you got the initial call? Or
Yes.
where did you go, I guess, once you got into the Holmen Police Department?
We went into one of their interview rooms, one of their large interview rooms that they have at the police department there. There's a large table in the middle of the interview room. I escorted Miss Phillips there, asked her if she needed anything, she needed to go to the bathroom, wanted any water or coffee or anything like that. Where we went. Again, her friend Kimmy was out in the lobby area of the police department.
The room you went to, I guess, did you say it was an interview room?
Yes.
Okay. I guess, without belaboring the point, where is that room generally located in the Holmen PD?
I guess it's just off of their squad room. I guess that's not going to make much difference to the jury, but I would be on the southern side of the police department, kind of adjacent to their garage area. So it'd be kind of in the back southern corner, southwestern corner of the police department.
And you indicated that Kimmy had stayed in the lobby.
Yes.
Are there other people at the police station at this time?
I believe there's other officers that were, Holmen police officers that were at the police department at that point.
Did you do anything to set up the interview prior to interviewing Miss Phillips?
I guess when we got into the interview room, I sat down with Miss Phillips. Typically what I like to do is have individuals that I'm talking to in this type of a situation is write out a written statement of, telling me the events leading to whatever the end of the incident might be. I typically tell them to tell me what they believe, write down what they believe is important or relevant, is how I start out my interviews.
So I guess, is that a tool that you often use?
Yes, it's one of the tools, and not all officers or all investigators use that. It's one that I found that's very, very useful.
And I guess, was Miss Phillips, was she permitted to amend or supplement that written statement?
Yes, she was, and typically that, I shouldn't say typically, at times that can happen, but she was allowed to kind of put an asterisk in the written report.
So, did she make a written statement?
Yes, she did.
Did you eventually get an opportunity to interview Miss Phillips?
Yes, I did.
And I guess since I had asked about she made a written statement, did she supplement the written statement?
She also supplemented the written statement, yes.
Did you describe and discuss those topics in your eventual interview with Ms. Phillips?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Was that interview recorded?
Yes, it was.
I guess by video or just audio or?
Video, audio representation from the interview room at the police department.
If you saw part of the footage from that interview, would you be able to recognize it?
Absolutely, yes.
So, Your Honor, we might need, unless we already, I have directed the clerk to mark what is now Exhibit 76. I'm asking to display, I guess, the initial part of that just on screen without playing it for the purpose of possible identity.
Okay.
Try that again. Let me try it again.
So Investigator Leinfelder, now that this is on screen, are you able to recognize a photo of what is on, I guess, what can you tell us about what is on the screen?
Yes, this is the interview room of the Holmen Police Department. On the right side of the video, you have Ms. Phillips, and at that point she is seated and writing out a written statement.
And I guess, is this the interview? Or is this a recording of the interview I was previously describing?
This is a photo of the interview, yes.
And how can you tell?
I've watched, I was there and also watched the interview on the computer after the fact.
And up in the top left corner of our screen, is that I guess, what is that?
It's a time and date stamp. It's dated February 23rd, 2019. It's the day of the week, which is Saturday, and the time stamp on this photo is 9:54 and 54 seconds a.m.
And from your memory and what you've testified to here, does that sound like an accurate time of when you interviewed Ms. Phillips?
Yes, like I said, I believe that we walked into the interview room right around 9:30 in the morning, and she started working on her written statement. So yes, that's an accurate time. It would fit the time.
So I'm now messing, I guess, for lack of a better term, with the scroll bar. Can you just identify about how long this video is?
I'm
looking at the bottom.
the bottom here,
Yeah.
1:54 and 42.
And this is beginning at, it looked like,
That's about the 21-minute mark.
okay.
21-minute 02.
You had indicated you had watched this interview before. That timing that I'm talking about, that time frame, does that sound accurate to you as far as how long it was?
Yes.
And do you believe this to be, from what you can see and the indicators you made, a true and accurate copy of this interview recording?
Yes.
I'm going to request that this exhibit, pending if there's any further objections to authenticity throughout playing it, but right now I'm going to ask that it be submitted as evidence and permission to continue with the recording.
Subject to future objection, no objection.
Okay. Received.
And it can be published.
Yes.
Just for the record, I'm going to move it back to the beginning.
So, Investigator Linefeller, before we begin playing, is the timer now at 00?
Yes, it is.
And the top left, is that timestamp? What is that at?
Same date, 9:33 and 51 seconds a.m.
For the record, I'm going to jump ahead about a minute 30.
So,
I guess I jumped ahead 54 seconds just so that.
And before we begin, Investigator Linefelder, did anything to the best of your memory happen in that first 54 seconds?
No, that was the time that the recorder was starting, and then we entered the room.
Possible sponsorship. You got TV. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, you bet. Rick. Sometimes it's easier to put your thoughts down in a written form. Obviously, it'll get you going on this.
I have to get Mark's glasses on.
Which cheaters do you use?
These
The
are
125s or the?
I have no idea.
I just have to
The
break
1.0.
The camera system is your email. Do you use that goes by email system?
Oh,
And-
to Mark's email.
And as it passed, you know what his email address is that it would go to?
No, I have all of the passwords.
Okay.
So, well, let me look, but I'm assuming it is his. So M Phillips at yhic.com.
Oh,
I put in my notes. I have everything in my notes.
MPHILLIPS.
Oh my God, we just changed our address and everything. Oh my God, sorry.
Oh my God. Autocorrect. At what?
YHIC, or Home Improvement Company.com. So YHIC.com. And I can almost guarantee.
Y. W. Okay.
.com. Capital P HILO
HI.
7024.
DHILO 7024.
Capital P, yeah. Actually didn't have that one written down, but I'm fairly positive that's going to be. I don't even know what the date is. The 23rd. Can I start this?
Yeah, just basically starting from when you left last night, you went to dinner, everything you told me. You went to Sloopy's, had wings, pizza, blah, 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 went to the dive for the drawing. When things got a little, an argument may have started, just in that kind of deal. The more specific you could be, better. If you can't be specific, completely understand. Yeah, no, not like that. Just other things that, whatever you think is important to put into that, to tell the story of what happened last night with the domestic situation. So I am going to let you work. I'm going to go to the bathroom quick. I'll check on Kimmy, make sure she's squared away. Got everything. If you need anything, just open up the door and give me a holler. But I shouldn't be gone very long.
What did we do? So I don't even know what to do because here I forgot all about the physical part that I didn't write in there.
Okay, you can just, you just want to insert it, you can just make a, you just continue on, So you can put little asterisk here and we go back on another piece of paper and put
I was
that.
like, how stupid are you, Lori?
No, it's your mind's racing a million miles per hour. It's tough to do these things, but I might get you some more paper. You don't want any soda, water?
Actually, I'll have a water. Please,
Water.
thank you.
I've stopped the video at 17, looks like 26, 17:26. Investigator Leinfelder, I'll try not to interrupt too many times, but I guess you're talking about what you said about the asterisks. Is that, I guess, what is that? What does that mean? Asterisk here, asterisk there.
I will tell the individual, put the asterisk where you think if you left something out and you want to fill it in, mark a spot on the paper to show where you think that should have filled in, where you want to fill it in. Again, I was instructed, do your best to give me what's important about the incident and go from there. So
when I had asked you about supplementing statements, is that how you would notate that asterisk?
yes.
And does the location of the asterisk correspond to where it was supposed to be in the statement, or no? Or is there any timing weighted at a certain time?
It appeared that it fit, I guess, to answer that question, it appeared that it fit in the timing of the of where she was writing the statement and of events that she was, the important events in her mind of where they were.
But you yourself, you didn't instruct her to do anything special like that.
No, I didn't. I basically put the asterisk, I didn't tell her where to put an asterisk in.
Let the record reflect we were starting again at 17:26, exactly where we had paused.
They're trying to access it through the email.
Really positive.
So, Your Honor, I'm just, because we're making a written record, we had a fumble at council table with a water bottle. If I may have permission, I would like to, the video right now is stopped, it looks like 18:05. Would we have permission to go back just a little bit, in case the disturbance cut off the video, or just keep going?
I'll just keep going.
Can I ask, is the volume all the way up?
The volume's very hard to hear after the stoppage.
It did move the microphone the way it was pointed, so
Okay. So you're doing the volume off the microphone? You're not doing it through the system, in other words?
it's connected to the system, but somehow it is going through my device.
Audio plug?
Okay. I don't know, keep playing it. It's a long video, keep going.
Starting at 18:05.
Okay. All right. If they don't, hopefully they'll be able to get in. If not, they might try to do it with your phone, if that's okay. Okay. I'll let you know. Water.
What? I don't know the two hotels' names.
What?
I don't know the two hotels' names.
You told me Comfort Inn.
Comfort Inn, yep.
And then Baymont.
Okay.
That's correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I got your water.
Thank you.
Oh,
So I need to add when we were outside of the dive.
okay. So just start with like an asterisk there, and even on that page, you put an asterisk where you want to insert insert it, I don't know. And then, okay, and then do the same after you got there.
Literally can't pick. I just been driving. Can I turn my cameras off?
Yeah. Can you turn your alerts off? Cameras on, turn your lights off. I don't think we need to keep the cameras on, but I don't want to shut anything down really. Actually, you know what we might do is that guy from that's trying to download or look into that might maybe just give him the phone. So I'll try to do that. The video camera's there.
Stop the video at 2622. Investigator Leinfelder. What cameras are you talking about?
The blink cameras that are at the residence, when they're on, there's motion detection. So anytime there's a motion detection on the camera, an alert goes to your phone, and I believe in similar to a text message. With officers being at the residence, there was lots of motion going on. So Ms. Phillips was asking if she could turn the cameras off so she wouldn't be distracted by that.
And that was due to what was still happening at the residence while this interview was happening?
Yes, with the other officers that were still at the scene. The volume was a little bit low when you started that back up after that last moment.
Are we at maximum? Starting at 2622 again, where we had paused.
I'll see if that guy's here. Sorry. He needs to unlock. Is there a code or is it just your thumb or?
The code on that one is 081895.
0818. Birth of someone.
Brandon.
Okay.
He got mad because it was Hunter, so then he switched.
Don't want to feel left out. I'll see if he's here. We'll just put that. You need that husband driving us not. He can look into that. You're okay if you quick dive into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
What he did, but I'm like, right here hurts. I don't know that I can call it a bruise because I haven't even looked. I haven't even changed my clothes.
I'm pausing at 29:35. Investigator Leinfelder, I guess it looks like you're looking at your phone there. Is that accurate?
Yes.
What are you doing? Are you doing anything of note there?
A lot of times during interviews, information gets relayed back and forth through text messages from other officers, other investigators that might be on the scene of an incident, trying to give a heads up. Could be me relaying information back regarding in this instance, maybe the camera system that they have on the home security camera system they have in the house. So I know in sometimes it appears that we're distracted or we're doing other things, but in these instances where we're doing interviews, we're either receiving or delivering information that we're receiving as we receive it. So we have a better understanding on what's going on at the scene, what's going on in the interview room, and basically that's the context of me looking at my phone.
So you're actually doing something relating to the investigation?
Yes, that's correct.
Replaying the video at 29:35 where we had paused?
What do you call the step things that you get into the truck? What do you call it?
Side rail or step?
The last thing I wanted you guys thinking he's a bad person, though, by reading this. Because he certainly wasn't. He just had a jealous reaction.
You said you had a possible bruise here. You
No, I wouldn't
grabbed
say.
you by the neck.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if there's anything or not. You had me in the middle of the truck. There should be an earring somewhere in the truck, too, because my big diamond earring is missing still.
So I'm going to read this way. So we went to dinner at Sloopy's with Hannah Klinsky and Adam Stevens. We met at 4:15 p.m. We ate, or approximately. We ate and went to the dive for an 8 p.m. drawing. After the drawing, we were leaving to come back to Holmen. We were going to go to features drawing at 9. And we ran into Scott Cundy. When we were leaving, Scott Cundy asked us to go to a car that had just pulled in to say hi to Terry LaFleur and his wife. Mark said, going to get the truck, and met back at Terry's truck. They all went to Mark's truck to talk. Got into the truck and we left. Mark accused Terry of coming to the bar to see me. He accused me of sleeping with him. Asked. That's where he put in the
That's
asterisk.
last night. I mean,
Yep.
that's just, like, he's never brought Terry's name up before in his life.
So that's where he put the asterisk. Just Mark pulled me into the middle of the truck and was holding me down. He had me in a chokehold. After getting away from Mark, I went inside to be with friends. So as we were still at the dive.
Right.
Yeah.
Only
I
at
was
the dive.
missing my left earring and had
I just said sensitive because I don't know if
sensitive
it's a
area,
bruise.
right of your right chest and neck area. I got a bruise on the back of the leg.
Yeah, I can feel that one.
Getting out of the truck and hitting the step rail. It all happened quickly, and I don't know what all happened. We got into a heated argument, and I asked Mark to take me to the dive, back to the dive, so my friends would take me home. I talked to Hannah, Adam. I asked
Yeah,
if they
I've
would
got
give
all
me.
of the phone things, so I don't know if you guys
Sure.
did that.
Mark dropped me off and took my phone. He used my phone to call Adam 4 times. Mark ended up coming back. I drove. Wait. And I messed up there.
Ask me to go outside.
and asked me to go outside with him to talk. I started to walk over to go outside, but he made a comment. I turned around and went back.
I can't remember what he said, but I was like, there's no way I'm going outside by myself with him.
He went to the other side of the bar and talked to someone he knew. My friends were going to leave, and I told them I'd be fine, and we were going, and went back by Mark. Everything was okay. He texted me at 8:52 to say, I'm so sorry. I love you. Shortly after that, we left to go home. He brought up Terry again and got really mad. We argued all the way home. When we got home, I told him I was leaving. He said he wanted to get his things out of the truck. He was on the passenger side with the door open when he got mad and started running over to my door.
Running. Yeah, he ran over to,
okay. Running over to my door. When he got to my door, I took off. His door was still open, meaning the passenger door that he was getting his stuff out. I turned right out of the driveway and it closed. I drove.
One thing I forgot about when I was telling you this is I actually pulled into a subdivision to see if Mark was following me.
Okay.
And this car came up, and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be a cop, it's going to be a cop, and I'm going to get in trouble here because I've been drinking. So then I just waited for it, and this car just pulled right into their driveway, right into their garage. So some white SUV. And I mean, I'm sure I can go exactly where I was.
I drove to a subdivision down the street and pulled over to see if Mark was chasing me.
There was a car behind me.
A white truck pulled by me and went to their garage. From there, I started looking for hotels. I located Comfort Inn. I went there, but they didn't have any rooms. I went online to get a room at Fort Baymont. When I got there, they stated I rented a room for Saturday night. They didn't have any rooms available. I drove to Woodman's, used the bathroom, and then back to a lot to park and sleep across from the Baymont.
Right across, there's something. I don't even know what it is. It's like a vacant.
Yep.
Well, I don't think it's vacant. I think it's a business, but
it's a little dumpster place, I think.
I don't know.
After a couple hours, it was cold. I got in the front seat and drove home. I went inside and went to sleep on the couch. I didn't want to upset Mark by coming home, so I got up and went upstairs to sleep. In the morning, used the bathroom and walked down to our bedroom. I wanted to confront Mark.
Mm-hmm. I was like, you're going to apologize.
And get an apology.
Do you want me to do 1, 2, 3, 4 for you?
Yeah, no. He wasn't in the room. I went outside to see his car was in the garage, thinking he went out with friends last night. That's when I saw him laying in the snowbank. I went inside and called the police. They asked me to lay him on his back, but he was too heavy for me to. Anything you didn't, going through that you didn't put in there that?
No, I don't think so. I just forgot that one portion that. This is just so crazy. So crazy.
So on your, what time was it?
You took my phone.
I know. I can get it back. What time, you know what time it was when you, so it was probably before 9 o'clock. You got home or right around 9 o'clock? Because you didn't go to the features for the 9 o'clock?
Mm-hmm. Nope, we went.
So you missed that, so it's between 9 and 10 o'clock you think you got home?
Yeah, it was well after 9 o'clock because I remember looking, well, we can't go there now. Because we were still at that dive bar.
Okay. And any approximate idea of what time you think that you would have gotten?
I can check text messages between Hannah and Adam and calls and stuff because they were worried.
And that should probably be on the video. What time? Because your alarms, your cameras were on.
Right.
So that'll show, the cameras will show the time that you came in.
For sure.
The time that you left. Okay. Just go over my quick notes that I took.
to tell you we just got married in December 29th.
No, I did not know that.
No. Did.
The 23rd.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Sorry. Let me, I think our timeline might be, if we can, I want to see where they're at with the phone, the camera. That might lock some of our times in a little bit better so we can get us better. So, wonder if you have to go to the bathroom or anything. I'll see if they got it. Good.
So, Your Honor, we paused the video at 42:49. It looks like it is just about 15, 20 minutes after noon. I guess I just wanted to take a moment to ask the court how we should proceed.
Yeah, I was thinking that. What time do we have it coming? 12:30. 12:10, okay. And then I assume that there's, how much more on the video approximately? I don't
An
remember.
hour and 12 minutes.
All right, so let's take a break. It probably makes sense at this point before we get into the longer part of the interview. So again, ladies and gentlemen, please don't talk about the case. We'll have lunch in a couple minutes ready. My hope is, it may not take